Today, I am reminded of the profound responsibility that comes with the desire to serve a nation and her people. Actions taken, whether intentional or not, shape that nation's destiny, lifts burdens, and restores hope. True leaders then must seek to inspire, empower, and drive meaningful change, not just through grand gestures, but through communication, small acts of kindness, and daily choices that put others first. The question someone will ask is, where is Nelta going with all of this philosophizing? Is that the situation in our country? Well, our guest on Newsnight today knows this well, having served in the corridors of power, beginning as a special assistant to a serving minister. He believes that serving the nation is a service to oneself and future generations. Is he correct? Is that what we have, where leadership finds it difficult to communicate with the led? Newsnight sat down for a conversation with the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara. Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara, thank you for speaking to us on Newsnight.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know, yours is, there's those who would say before you came to the limelight as Speaker, indeed, I know at that time some people asked the question, where is he coming from? I mean, so just walk us, in the very shortest possible time, walk us through your journey, your political journey to being Speaker.
Honestly, I must confess, I don't think I ever saw myself as playing an active part in politics. As a lawyer, a trained lawyer, my ambition was just to work in the private world, not bother about politics at all. And I had the absolute support of my wife in that. And we tend to look at politics as a game only dirty people play. And so we were merely contented supporting political actors, but never wanted to be in the arena ourselves. But somehow, you know, because God is the ultimate judge and he has set our paths, I ran into a very wonderful elder brother, I call him elder brother Governor Muazu then, who thought otherwise and tried as much as he could to persuade me to consider picking a career in politics. And because he's a very smart person himself, without consultation with me, one day I was just seated, he just called me and said, well, you know that we have a new minister appointed as Minister of State for Transport from Bauchi. I said, yeah, I've heard. And he said, well, I've resolved that you're going to be the special assistant to the minister. And so you should get on. And then I'm coming into Abuja this weekend, that time, and you should meet me at home on a Saturday evening. So I remember going there, and he introduced me to the person who had just been appointed Minister of State for Transport. And so told him that, well, this is my younger brother that I said is going to serve as your special assistant. And that was the very first time I was even meeting him. I've never heard about him, although he was the Attorney General of Bauchi State before the appointment. But I've never heard of him. So he now said, okay, when are you joining him? As at that time, I was handling a lot of stuff outside. I said, no, Your Excellency, let me think about it. He said, no, I didn't call you here for that kind of conversation.
I called you
it's a directive from your elder brother. Just if you want to take 3 weeks or 1 month, we are giving you, just go and wrap up and join him. So honestly speaking, that was my introduction into politics. And later, for whatever reasons, he thought that as part of leadership recruitment process in Nigeria, they needed people who were trained and who will be able to make some kind of difference in leadership. So when there was opportunity to run for House of Representatives, he pulled me out again as a special assistant to the minister and said, okay, come and run for the position of House of Representatives. And that was how I found myself running for that election. And when I told my wife, you can imagine, she was absolutely devastated. But along the line, we adjusted, ran for the office, won, and then the rest is history.
You know, when you mentioned your wife, and I remember before I got married, just about, I think 2 weeks to our wedding, I asked my wife, I said, what would you do if I go into politics? Hey, just hold it there. Just hold it there.
Yes.
But, so you weren't exactly ready, and you came into politics. Now, the matter of nationalism comes in. Question of nationalism. Why do people even go into politics? Are they thinking about the nation, or are they thinking about making an impact, or are they thinking about their pockets? So let's pull back and start from, what challenges did you meet when you got in, even though you were not ready for it? Did you see a picture of a nationalist, or was it about, my elder brother said, but now I'm here, I'm going to serve my country? What were the challenges you had, and what vision did you get for yourself and this country?
Well, I would say that although it's not the question as to whether I was ready or not, I believe that my training as a lawyer had already prepared me for a role in politics. The only thing is that I didn't just want to be a politician because of the nature of the game then and the way we perceived it. So, having won the election, I came into the House of Representatives and met quite a lot of people, very smart members who shaped my perspective. Because as we were taking the oath, my preoccupation was that what is it that I can do for my immediate community? I wasn't looking at the larger picture. That although I was elected from a constituency, I had Nigeria, the entirety of this country, as my constituency. Although I could do more for the people who, stood for me, but that I still owe a responsibility to see that Nigeria does well. So I met a lot of these wonderful members who actually coached me because they were quite in number. I'll be unfair to others if I attempt to mention
No,
names.
you don't need to mention
since
them.
I can't bring all of them together, but a lot of them. And then I began to see the bigger picture. And I believe that bigger picture is what we're missing, even up till now. You see, the question is that as politicians, most of the times we bother about leadership positions, or we want to kill ourselves to be this, to be elected, to occupy offices. But nobody is thinking about the fact that if there's no Nigeria, there won't be House of Representatives, there won't be Senate, there won't be the office of the president or vice president or governor or even
local government chairman now. Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the major job of an informed politician in Nigeria is to see to the survival of the project Nigeria first, because that guarantees the office is occupied.
There is no clear-cut philosophy for these political parties. What's the guarantee that this man who has this national vision can even pursue it?
Well, I guess you're 100% right, and it's been a subject that actually has bothered me a lot over time. If you look at all the political parties in Nigeria, they are more of the same thing. And that is why it is very, very easy for politicians to cross carpets into other political parties, because there's no defining philosophy or ideology that separates our political parties the way you have it in the United States. If you are conservative, you believe you're pro-life, and it's very difficult to shift grounds or to concede that. And then if you are a Democrat, for instance, a major defining thing is that you believe that you are progressive. You understand, not that you hate life as such, but you're pro-choice. You're saying that the decision as to whether a life starting at pregnancy should be carried full time, should be the responsibility of the woman herself. And if she's a religious person, maybe her decision with her pastor, with her imam, with her rabbi, or whatever faith she subscribes to, and her medical doctor. The government is too big to come
down to that level.
Yes, decision. So that is a defining philosophy as far as I'm concerned. But in Nigeria, if you look at the manifesto, for instance, of APC and PDP or even NNPP, you would see that they are more of the same thing. This one will draw from this one will draw from this. And so when you are cross-carpeting, there's no shift in philosophy as such. It's not that these are things that I take as irreducible minimums that I cannot concede. There's nothing like that in the Nigerian political space. So it is something that we will have to work towards developing or create an atmosphere, a conducive atmosphere, where such a philosophy can evolve that separates the political parties. But we are not there. And this is a discussion that we should further, that we should continue to have as to who is a progressive in Nigeria, who is a conservative, and so on and so forth. You cannot
who's a liberal. You can't be, you have to be something.
So it's more of the same, actually.
But for you, who's a professional, and I know that you're not the only lawyer who trained, who's called to bar, and then you came into politics. There are other professionals as well. There are medical doctors, there are engineers, there are all manner of people who, some retired military men, security personnel, who are in the National Assembly or who are in different areas of the political space of Nigeria. So if we were to ask now, so besides the fact that there was no clear-cut philosophy, so to speak, for indeed across board, what were the challenges you had to deal with as it concerns especially the nation? I'm here. There has to be a nation before I can be this. So what challenges did you have to deal with? And how were you able to circumvent or manage those challenges?
Well, if you're a follower of events in Nigeria, you would see that we're having this conversation about whether we should have an Odua nation. We are having separatists who actually call themselves Biafrans, and they believe that it is better for the Southeast and maybe some pockets of other parts of Southeast to move together as a nation while we have Odua nation. And if that happens, even in the North here, I can't guarantee that the entire 3 zones in the North will remain as one country. But you see, there we have to keep harping on this, that Nigeria represents the real hope that the black man can build a civilization. And it is said the more, the better. I've always believed that the total sum of Nigeria will be greater, will be better, will be more functional, you understand, than any fragmented part of it, no matter how successful and prosperous it is. There are genuine concerns about marginalization of some segments in Nigeria. So whether we can solve it at the level of the National Assembly is one question. But in most cases, you know, by virtue of the presidential democracy that we practice, the executive is too strong. Not too strong in terms of the powers, you know, granted to the executive by a founding document, which is the Constitution, but just because they control resources. Otherwise, the National Assembly in any representative government is the #1 institution, because they can even sack the executive, as the practice is in the US. But unfortunately, in Nigeria, it is otherwise. I mean, in most cases, the executive determines who and who should be in the judiciary, who and who should be leaders in parliament. So as the saying goes, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. It's not a lie.
But even in the face of financial autonomy that these other 2 arms of government are supposed to enjoy in Nigeria, is it still a question of who pays the piper determines the tune?
Certainly, because you see, beyond just running the institutions, there are a gamut of other favors that are dispensed by the executive. And so you will see that in deploying this state prerogative, a requirement to be on the table is that I don't want to use the crudest time we use here, is that you're a psychophancy, if you permit me to use it, if you are a psychophant. So psychophancy is a key factor. And once you show any sign of independence, you cannot be at the table. And so you see that a lot of people pander towards the executive. You want a road to be done in your village. Well, in the National Assembly, you can't, that judiciary cannot give you that. Even as a judge, you have to go to the executive to beg for favor. As a member, if you are just to rely on just representation, which is the business of parliaments all over the world. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, no matter what, if you like, move all the bills, the motions, sponsor all the bills that will become law, you cannot win an election back home. They want to see the projects you have attracted. They want to see how you have invested in the life of your constituents. And by investment, I mean, they call it empowerment. I don't know how many have been empowered since we started practicing this democracy. You're distributing motorcycles, keke nape, you're doing a lot of things for your constituents. Unfortunately, those are the requirements that bring you back. And, you know, most politicians want to sustain their career in politics. So they tend to, always go to the executive so that they can get these favors to meet up with these demands on the part of their constituents. So that is why this issue, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. If you are a legislator and God helping you, if you don't have any support from a member of the executive, honestly speaking, there's no way you can do well. That's the truth. So that's where the problem lies.
But do we then say that there is no way around all of this?
No, there should be a way. Recently, I've been canvassing, and if you notice, I even had to declare what I was earning. You know, the conversation has been that, National Assembly members take humongous allowances or take homes. And then at the function in National Assembly, I called on my accountant. He's still there. You can find out. I said, how much were you paying me as speaker? All the allowances that you talk about is 25 million naira. That was what I was earning. And I now said, between you and God, let anybody go and find out from him whether I ever took 1 naira home. I said, look, go and set up an account somewhere because this money doesn't belong to me. The constituents, people that will be coming. And then I even asked him whether that amount even lasted at any point for 3 days. How I survive is only God. Honestly speaking, I'm telling you this. And I can beat my chest. It's not that I'm boasting, but even if I were to boast, I can boast in this. I can glory in it, as the scripture said. Ask any minister that we served together when I was speaker, whether he ever did a favor of 10,000 naira for me. Ask. So the only thing I was exposed to was that 25 million that comes. And then in 3 days it's gone because members are having function. They come to you as a leader. You can't just leave them like that. You have your constituents, you have your family. So what will solve this problem is that if Nigerians will come to a point where they accept the fact that, look, let's leave these legislators. Their work should just be making laws for us for the good governance of this country. We're not bothering you to come and do bridges, to bring roads, to bring boreholes. We're not coming to your house to ask you for money to feed, money for naming ceremonies, money because our parents are in the hospital. I guarantee you that the National Assembly will be independent. And then you will have senators, you will have members who are willing to even serve for free. They wouldn't even bother collecting salaries. I can guarantee this if this happens.
But the other side, the other conversation will then be, can these legislators, who many of them are professionals before they were elected into office, can they decide to do this as on a part-time basis so that those allowances can be clearly cut down and the people can then see that, look, you're not getting that much. It's my salary I'm surviving on. There are no allowances coming to me.
What I'm telling you is that even at that, you understand, nobody would believe you as a politician. If you lecture them 24 hours a day, nobody's going to believe that you are not getting enough. Even the one they are getting now is not even enough. Honestly speaking, some people will want to crucify me for saying that. But I will tell you this, for a considerable period of time when I was in the House, there was no week that I don't spend more than what I earn in a month. No single week. None. Because one of my SS is there. He is the one who holds the file. And you see that these problems are genuine. Yeah. It's not that they are lying. School fees, hospitals, parents in hospitals. You understand. They are there. Sickness. And you have to attend to it. So because of the volume of requests, even if you are allocating 50,000, 100,000, for which they will even insult your parents, they are not giving them more. The money is not enough. So the point is that if we can educate our citizens enough to know that, look, if you have this kind of problem, don't go to members of parliament. Maybe you can face the executive, your governors, your local government chairman, your state governments are there. They control the funds. Let them provide for you so that we can take this burden off members of the National Assembly. Then it will be better. Some, like I said, will serve for free. But it is un-Nigerian. It is inhuman for you to load somebody with heavy burden and then you knock off the leg with which he's standing.
I still expect him to.
Yes, I still expect him to perform. But these are discussions. We can have this honest, free conversation. I'm not shy about it, and nobody should run away from it. That's the beauty of democracy.
Some will say Nigerians hardly ever are ready to hear the truth. And even when they hear the truth, as you said, they will not believe you. But before we go on the break, I'd just like to ask you, in all of these times you were doing this, what happened to your law practice?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the provision of the Code of Conduct for public officers.
You're not supposed to earn anything
outside so the rule is that if you are going to do it while in the employment of the federal government or state or anywhere, then your services has to be pro bono. You understand? Yeah. And because it is full-time, it's not part-time, I can't imagine any successful legislator who will combine that with law practice. Honestly speaking, it's difficult. So, and as they say in economics, that for one to be better off, it means that someone will have been worse off. So if you're going to be better than being a parliamentarian or a legislator, it means that your practice will suffer. So it is very, very difficult to combine the two, because when you are out of sitting, you're dealing with constituents, even weekends, you're attending functions, you are relating with people. There's virtually no time for you to even say you're going to the court or to practice anything. So it's such a very difficult job, but a lot of people don't realize. For those who are committed to doing the work as it is, it's not easy, honestly. But there could be legislators there who don't care. They don't go for sitting. And so for them, maybe they can combine that with so many things. But if you are actually committed, you're dutiful, you take responsibility, you want to represent your constituency well, you want to work for the advancement of this country as a legislator, you won't have time. Even for ordinary business, it will be very difficult.
But let's step back now and begin to look at other things. There are national issues, burning national issues. Nigeria at this particular time is grappling with economic hardship, and the citizens will tell you it's just for us citizens. The political class are not experiencing it. Then insecurity. The out-of-school children, those who are even in school, are unable to pay fees, get uniforms and all of that. So a lot of issues. And then the biggest, if you ask me, hunger or possible hunger in the land, going by the latest report by the FAO, that at a certain time, some 20-something million will be in hunger in December 2024, and some others more by March 2025. What do we do?
Well, I think it's not a rocket science, but I think it's a very difficult problem. I was just looking up some statistics of deaths in Nigeria due to hunger or poverty. And it's put as 3,000 deaths a day, every day. So if you were to attend funerals of these 3,000 deaths a day, in a day it will take you 8 years to be able to attend these funerals. So I totally agree with your sentiments that there's hunger.
My sentiment.
Yes, and there's anger in the land. And when we went to see the president, gladly, he alluded to that himself. Those were his words, that he acknowledged the fact that there's hunger and there's anger in the land. All of us are aware of this. But you see, we are getting a lot of things wrong. If you look at the major factor responsible for this pandemic of hunger that we have in the land, is the issue of security, or rather insecurity. The truth is that there's no nation on earth that will allow this level of bloodletting we're witnessing in Nigeria, whether it is through the activities of Boko Haram or the bandits in the north, or it is through the separatists in the southeast or some other elements in the south. The level of bloodletting in this country is too much. And I'll tell you two very massive disadvantages of that bloodletting that we see. Number one is because of that activity, a lot of people have abandoned their farms. A lot. You can't even access the farm. The bells that used to produce the crops that we eat in this country, for most of the farmers there has been an absolute nightmare. So that is one of the major problems. And for some of us who are men of faith, we believe that if we are unable to stop this bloodletting, where innocent people are hacked to death, they're kidnapped and killed for no reason, then obviously we will be battling against a curse. These two factors are responsible for most of the things that we see today. So for me, the problem with Nigeria is not even the infrastructure first. It's not even the economy first. It's this issue of insecurity. And as long as we're unable to tackle this issue of insecurity, I guarantee that we will not get out of this problem. That is the simple truth. You see, because for some of us who come from the Northeast, and that was why I led efforts to establish the Northeast Development Commission, because of the level of devastation then in the Northeast due to activities of the terrorists, the Boko Haram terrorists. And I knew that for us to make it, we have to stymie this act of violence that destroys even the civilization that we have built. And the truth all over the world, all over history, is that once you lose the battle against violence, you cannot keep your civilization. Police stations were gone, schools were gone, hospitals were destroyed. Completely rest down. So even once the advancement we had recorded went back due to the activities of these terrorists, sundry criminality. So what I'm saying is that the number one effort, whether at the level of state government, at the level of the federal government, before you talk about economy, you talk about hunger, you talk about exchange rate and everything, is this issue of insecurity. I guarantee to you, if we were to abandon everything, take 3 months, 6 months, dedicate everything we have in Nigeria to eliminating this, I guarantee that we will be able to eliminate this crisis. It's not rocket science.
But let me come in, if I may. Nigeria is known to be one of the most committed and most effective nations in terms of peacekeeping operations, and indeed securing other countries, so to speak. And then there are conversations at different quarters, especially amongst the citizenry, that the level of protection for the leadership is such that it appears they don't care about the led, so much so that protect us and then let the led continue to suffer the insecurity. As you said, the president alluded to hunger and anger. Anger being that they can't go to their farms. Those who are used to going to farms together, they can't go. So they are angry. And then the next thing, they want to take it out on something.
Yeah.
Some not even on the leadership. They take it out on themselves.
Of course. So even on the society.
Would planning not solve this? Don't we have the institutions and personnel that can handle this matter once and for all? Or is it that there are some who are, for want of a better example, fueling this insecurity for their own personal gain?
Well, I guess to some extent it has become like a business. I don't want to talk about people who benefit or entrepreneurs of violence, people who benefit from violence. But what I do know is that if there's commitment and the will, we'll be able to solve this problem. And it has nothing to do with the military. There's nothing, all these things, police and what have you, they are all part of the institutions of the state. They are our institutions. So the problem society suffers is also reflected in these institutions. The truth is, I've said it, even at one of my interviews with your news organization, is that even the United States, Russia, so many other countries, they utilize mercenaries in conflict like this. We have used the police. How many of them do we have? We have even used the army. How many, do we have in the armed forces? All put them together and then spread them across the conflict zone. Remove them even from the politicians that they think, politicians are taking them, they are guiding them, that's why they're not doing the work. Even remove them from the politicians, take them out and deploy them. You'll find out that we don't even have enough of the servicemen to combat this threat. So my own has been that, look, if we have been doing this thing for ages and there's no letting off, you understand, why can't we source it out to mercenaries? And these guys will come here, work with the conventional forces so that they get the result. But for me, I don't think they have changed the definition of foolishness. You keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you are expecting a different outcome. Except they have changed that definition. Then it means that, honestly speaking, if we keep going this way and we're expecting a different outcome, then we're deceiving ourselves. But kudos to the military, actually. We cannot overstate the fact that they are doing pretty well these days, because the kind of challenges we have seen in the last 2 years, we're not witnessing them now, even as it relates to the epicenter of this crisis in the Northeast. The thing has come down a bit. And even the issue of banditry is not in the ascendancy, as it were, some years ago. So they must be doing something right. I pray that they sustain it. But whether they will be able to eliminate this is a different question. I don't think so. You understand? Because the thing is like, it happens today, for some time, it's a bit quiet, before you know they strike again.
Yeah, there are some who will say that if we had the issue of this, if we had brought in like state police, local policing, that will make a difference. We don't necessarily need to bring in mercenaries. We get people who live in those localities, empower them by law to handle this matter, and it will. I mean, you talked about the Northeast. One of the institutions that seemed to help is an informal institution, the institution of the hunters. They helped a great deal. So wouldn't that help you to make a difference?
They call them civil defense. I want you to study that thing very well. And the issue of state police is a different subject matter. If we delve into it, I doubt very much we'll finish the discussion today. It's something that I oppose to the last sinews in my body. It's not going to produce any result. It's going to even worsen the situation. Because the truth is that you cannot just train young people, energetic people in weapon handling, equip them, and you are able to take care of them or pay them well. So you are even unleashing on the society more Boko Haram elements who will take it out on the society, and they are trained, they are armed. Tell me states are they are struggling to pay, what is it called, even the minimum wage, that is nothing. So many states are saying they cannot afford it. Then talk about those states now recruiting state police, equipping them with guns, and they are unable to take care of them. Imagine what will happen. So I don't even want us to go that way at all. I don't think it's an option.
The economies of states, where now some states are finding it difficult to pay the minimum wage. One would have thought that the matter of resource control will be looked at, so that beyond the federal allocation that comes in, there are some natural resources across this country. Every state, there is no state in this country without a natural resource. I studied geography, so I have an idea that there is no state without a natural resource. Wouldn't it have been a lot better and easier for these states if they had, by law, the opportunity to mine some of these things and then pay a percentage or get some investment in those mineral resources, use it to fund their state, and then pay a percentage to the federal government?
So I totally agree with you, but the downside of that argument, which maybe you have not looked at it very well, is the fact that, you see, you can't bring out those resources that you're talking about without developing the human capacity to achieve that. So qualitative education is everything. In countries or in other climes where they don't even have those resources that they're talking about, but they have intellectual capital to dispense, like South Korea, for instance, they have made tremendous progress. They've even turned their nations into first world. But the unfortunate situation is that in Nigeria is that we lack the resources to develop them. We lack the human capital. Not that we don't have the numbers, but they are not trained. So issue of education, not just education, but qualitative education is important. And unfortunately, travel across the state, see the level of primary schools, see the level of secondary schools, go to the universities, have engaged the students, even finally have students in the university in any discussion. They can't even sustain a 5 minutes discussion. Unfortunately, that is the case. Well, that is different from our own generation, where from secondary school we could hold our ground.
Or maybe it's a question of this centralizing everything. What if the different states and the different universities are allowed to set up their curriculums, run them, and see to the implementation of these things? Would that make a difference?
You see, that's nothing to do with the university. That's everything to do with organization, in the sense that it's not just enough for universities to say, okay, they are developing curricula, they are implementing whatever design of the intellectual output they want to generate. But the question is, how much does it take? And whether the people, the students themselves, will be able to afford that. Mind you, we have had one other practice that has actually stultified development in Nigeria. We tend to pull the best from the universities into government positions because everybody is attracted to government positions since it appears that there's easy money there. In other climes, if I were a leader in this country, honestly speaking, if you are an expert in the university, you will have no business coming to serve in my government. You can be a consultant, but stay in the university, do your research, impart this knowledge into our children, because they're the next generation that will take over the leadership of this country. And we don't have them trained and developed. It means that we're losing the future. And then it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that is the side of office you are looking at, even if it means outside the university system, I can generate something to be given to some of these experts that will stay in the university, additional income from some other sources. I wouldn't mind, but I will love the situation. I will beg them on my knees, stay in the university, impart this knowledge, do more research. If we had done that, we would be making more progress than we're witnessing now.
So what you're saying is, if I get you correctly,
yes,
the governors, and I do know that there's a governor who's talked about it, whether the Kaduna State governor, for instance, go to the schools, pay the lecturers more to teach the students, pay the teachers more from the primary up to secondary to teach and impart that knowledge, and then stay in the school. And then what about the infrastructure in the school? That means they have to build them accommodation, build the roads within the schools, provide the laboratories so that they can do their research, and do the incentives so that they will not be looking to Japa.
Yeah.
But that is not happening right now.
It's not. And that's what we're talking about. Invest in the people. Even nationally, invest more in the people than you invest on infrastructure. These people, if they are developed, they will have no problem providing the infrastructure that is lacking. But where you are providing infrastructure and not developing the people, the infrastructure is not going to last a lifetime. They will decay over time. So who is going to rebuild them?
If you look at it, Nigerians are providing their own water, roads, security, and all of that. But maybe it's because they are also getting an education. They feel they need to take care of themselves.
Of course.
So let's, as we wind down, you have been out of office of Speaker for a while. So if you had a chance, what would you do differently?
Honestly, that's a 1 million naira question. And I will tell you that I had an experience that really changed my perspective. And we started talking about it earlier on. I ran into a dentist in London who had one of those big practices in Syria. On account of the civil war in Syria, his hospital was bombed, his family was bombed, he lost wife, he lost kids in that. And thankfully, he had a sister in Britain who decided to invite him to come over. And then the British government gave him loan, and he was able to start a dental practice after 45 years of graduating, qualifying as a dentist, starting life afresh in the basement of an apartment in the UK. So for me, you see, the issue of building a nation is paramount to me. And if I had the opportunity ever again, I think is to be more responsive, to take up more responsibility. Because you see, so many people in Nigeria look at leadership as a job. Leadership is not a job. Leadership is a responsibility. The fact that you have accepted responsibility for your own action first and the actions of those you have selected to support you. There's nothing like outsourcing responsibility to anybody. As a leader, once you accept responsibility and you know that, look, nobody is to take the blame, I will take the blame. That is the beginning or the foundation of effective leadership, to accept the responsibility for everything happening around you. But in Nigeria, most of the time the discussion is, no, it's not the governor, it's the people around him, or it's not the president, it's the people around him. No. As the leader, you have to accept responsibility for everything, because if the people around you are not doing well, the constitution, our law says you can hire and fire, you can change them. So I will take on more responsibility. I'll fight to ensure that every Nigerian is equipped to be able to fight for his rights, not only fight for his right, but to contribute meaningfully to the development of this nation. Because it takes more than a president, more than a governor, more than a local government chairman to build this country. It's a collective task. And the citizens have not been educated enough to know that, you see, everybody has a responsibility to build a strong nation. And the stronger we are as individuals, the stronger our nation will be. It's just like, if you have a king over very poor people, he will be a poor king. But when you have a king pretending over powerful and rich people, the king will be a very powerful king. So for Nigeria to be a powerful nation, Nigerians must be doing well. That is why I'm saying that the federal government and the state government should prioritize the issue of investing in the citizen.
Even the local now that they are autonomous.
Yes, because they are autonomous. If they will tell you that I've not started enjoying the benefits of this autonomy.
Yeah.
But my joy with this local government autonomy is that it is going to improve on the pool of leadership, that will process these funds. Some in the university, professionals who otherwise thought even if you met the local government chairman for free, they will not accept it. But if you know that this resource is coming at the local level to my local government, and then you are a patriotic person, you can help to provide your leadership at that level so that the funds can be effectively channeled and processed for progress to be met, so to say.
A final note, the matter of communication.
Yeah.
Many leaders in Nigeria don't think they owe or don't think they should communicate their ideas or their positions. Communicating leadership is a problem in itself. Leaders hardly talk to, they talk at Nigerians. Can that change? Would that be one of the things you would change if you had an opportunity to communicate?
No, certainly. The point is that some of us receive some kind of training. So I know what it takes to provide leadership in crisis. It's not enough to talk to people. You must talk with them. It's not even enough to explain your position. You have to talk with them, not talk to them. And in most cases, when leaders in Nigeria talk, they talk to the people. They are not talking with them. You understand? So communication is valid, is very, very vital in providing leadership in crisis such as this. The people ought to know in clear terms what the problem is, what the leader is doing to solve the problem, and how long should they endure for them to see the result. And once you do this, you build trust. And once there is trust, all the discussions, all the things we are witnessing, they will calm down. But without that, there will continue to be problem, unfortunately. But I pray that we should imbibe the art of effective communication in leadership. It's very, very important that we don't just talk to people, to citizens, we talk with them. And it is important we tell them what the problems are, what we're doing to solve the problems, and how long it will take for results to manifest. Once the government does that, I'm done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
As they say, all good things will have to come to an end at a certain time. And this conversation, as interesting as it is, has to end sometime. So we have to end it here. I want to thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Just know that you can be a part of the conversation. Send us a comment, an email, a tweet on the platform X, and we will bring it back to the rest of our viewers so they get to see what you have to say about the conversations. Also, get to watch these again and other conversations. YouTube.com/channelsweb or channelstv.com/podcast. You see the playlist, the Newsnight playlist, and just binge away. We'll bring you another edition same time again. Bye-bye.